It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors,
by Wallowa County.
Nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence. And by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving? I hope you did. I know a lot of you got to spend time with family and friends, and I suspect turkey was on the menu for many of you as well. I do love this time of year because it calls us to come together to share time and stories that we just haven't found the time to do otherwise during the busy days that just seem to consume our lives. Thanksgiving. It's not about Christmas shopping, folks. It's about taking stock of what you have and who you have in your life and giving thanks for it. With Thanksgiving leftovers firmly on our minds, I thought it would be appropriate to talk about food this week, especially wild food. Tim Murphy, the prolific author of the Flannel John Cookbook series, will be joining us for a fun discussion about cooking up everything from big game to pheasant to a Christmas goose of all things. We'll also get to chat with Ryan Neely again with Camp Chef. This time, he's talking turkey, but not just any turkey. We're talking smoked turkey. It used to be all the rage for the holidays, and personally, I think it's time this delicious way of cooking a bird came back into vogue. After hearing from Ryan, I think you'll agree with me too. It's not all just about food this week. We will also be talking with outdoors writer Jason Brooks about an epic do-it-yourself hunting adventure he and his buddies experienced that involved deer, elk, fishing, and bush planes. Now, I know you're thinking this happened in Alaska or Canada. Well, it didn't. It actually took place in central Idaho. Not only will Jason tell you his story, but he'll also give you some tips to help you plan a similar expedition. In addition to all this, Lance Mers has got a new Max Minute for you, along with news and field reports from all 4 Northwestern states, covering everything from hunting to fishing to baking pelicans and roadkill for lunch. Oh my, the things you get to hear on the radio these days. But before we get any further into this broadcast, we have to ask the question. Is the federal government behind the ammo shortages we've been seeing in the market the last couple of years? Kind of a conspiracy theory question if you ask me, but it's an intriguing question raised by David Sparks on Sportsman Spotlight, which is brought to you every week by Shiloh Inns and Suites, the hotel chain that lives up to its motto of providing affordable excellence throughout the holiday season and every other day of the year. Let's listen in and find out more about what David has to say.
Conspiracy theory, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Gun shop owner Christopher Clonch talked to me about the shortage of .22 caliber ammo.
There was a shortage of ammo, and that was real. But the real hoarding began when the panic hit the market, and I believe that was also in conjunction with the administration change and the fear of gun and ammunition laws. The government can't really take the guns, but they can control the ammo. They can also buy the ammo because they buy tons of it for military training and things of that nature. And so whether any of this was ever substantiated, proven, or true, the behavior in the marketplace was not unlike the day the market dropped 700 a few years back. There was no fundamental thing that happened that day, but when the things started to roll down, obviously companies were going out of business, things of that nature, and the hysteria began, it created a life of its own. And I've done research on it, Sparky, and I seem to be sharing a pretty common notion that the hysteria created the hoarding created the market for the black market profitability created more people that maybe were out of work or whatever, seeing the opportunity and jumping in the black market, and it still happens today. There may be government conspiracies out there that the government actually went and drove around and bought all the .22 ammo. I watched and I felt the hysteria.
You heard Chris say he's not positive about all of this, but he has done his research. Draw your own conclusions. This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
Confused by so many national brand hotel reward programs?
Blackout dates, expiration dates, different points for different hotel rewards and gimmicks. At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, it's simple. No blackout dates for any rewards stay. If we have a room available, it's yours. Hi, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. As a rewards member, you'll receive free room upgrades, a dedicated personal agent to help book your stay, points that don't expire, points that can be used for free nights at any one of our beautiful hotels or donations to your local school or free airline tickets, and much more. And as a special bonus, you'll earn 100 free bonus points just for signing up. From your very first stay, you receive free Wi-Fi, free breakfast at most locations. The kids stay free. We don't charge ridiculous resort or parking fees, and we're dog-friendly. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American-owned and proud of it.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. The kind of optics that allow you to see what you need before making that stock or pulling that trigger. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
More habitat equals more wildlife. Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. Join the habitat leader and help create wildlife habitat in your community. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
You're back to Northwestern Outdoors, and I hope you're enjoying some of those yummy Thanksgiving turkey leftovers this weekend. This is the season to cook fowl, particularly wildfowl, and big game too, especially if you got a buck or a bull in the freezer. With that in mind, we've invited Tim Murphy to join us from Astoria, Oregon. Tim is the author of 22 and now about 23 cookbooks in the Flannel John's Cookbook series, to include Flannel John's Hunting Cabin Cookbook, covering recipes for venison, fowl, and wild game. Tim, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
You know, Tim, I thought we'd talk about, this holiday theme here. A lot of people just had turkey for Thanksgiving, but it used to be that a Christmas goose was a very popular bird to have for the holidays. But that's kind of fallen off, and I think part of it is just, people really don't know how to cook goose, especially ones they bag in the field, to taste that good. Do you have a recipe for folks out there that might want to do the old traditional Christmas goose?
I do and I don't, and here's why. The first time I tried goose, it was a complete disaster.
Sounds familiar.
Because I'm thinking, oh, yeah, it's just like a turkey. Well, it's not. You got different density with the meat, the cavity is different and everything else. But what I was able to do, and especially if you got a small goose, I've got a recipe here that I got when I was traveling through Minnesota, and it's I call it North Shore goose. And what you do is you take 4 cups of chopped goose meat, usually diced, maybe a half inch, a full inch, about a tablespoon and a half of butter, a medium diced onion, a couple of cups of wild rice, which really makes this, 5 cups of chicken broth, a cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and then salt and pepper. And what I do is I take a large pan, saute the onion in the butter, add in the goose meat, the rice, the chicken broth, the salt, pepper to taste. Then I bring it to a boil, bring it back, and then simmer it for about 30 minutes. And it's almost like a goose stew, and it's really good, especially if you didn't cook the goose right and you can salvage some of the meat. That's the best way to do it, and that's what I did, and it turned out really good.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. And folks, when we're talking little geese here, those Taverner's geese, those cacklers, they are really prolific right now, especially in the Willamette Valley and throughout western Oregon and western Washington. So this sounds like a great recipe for that. Something else I always love to eat in the fall is pheasant. I mean, for me, pheasant tastes even better than chicken. But, a lot of people have a hard time. And again, it kind of comes back to the same thing with goose. People tend to overcook it, I think, and it ends up dry. Do you have some suggestions for cooking a pheasant that somebody might bag this fall?
Keep it simple. Don't try and throw 20 different things into it. Don't worry about trying to time everything out perfectly. I do a roast pheasant, and it's just basically 6 ingredients. Get a nice clean pheasant, about a dozen mushrooms chopped. If you can get the morels, great, but sometimes those are tough to find. A couple tablespoons of butter, 4 bacon strips, and if you can get the thick ones, the better. About a half a cup of brandy or maybe even a white wine, and salt and pepper. And all you really do is clean out the bird, put it in a roasting pan, saute the mushrooms in the butter and the salt and the pepper, stuff that into the bird, Just lay the bacon over the breast of the bird, and you roast it at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. Baste it every couple of minutes with the brandy, and boy, it's really going to taste good. It's probably the best thing I've ever done with a pheasant.
I'll tell you what, I am literally salivating like a Pavlovian dog as we're talking about this. Oh my gosh, that sounds fantastic. All right. So we've got pheasant. And I'm not sure I can move past the pheasant, folks. Again, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Tim Murphy. He's the author of 22, soon to be 23 cookbooks in the Flannel John's Cookbook series, knows all about cooking big game and waterfowl and upland birds, and he's got books that'll help you do the same. So we've talked pheasant, we've talked goose. Let's move on to big game. A lot of hunters, which is a great thing, had success this year, bagging a deer or bagging an antelope or bagging an elk. Let's run through a recipe or two for some of that.
Well, I've always said when I wrote these books that the whole idea behind the books was they're simple recipes guys can make fast because we're lazy and we're hungry.
True.
And I have come up with one, and I've used this for both elk and moose. I call them moose nachos.
Ooh.
What you do, get 2 pounds of ground moose or elk meat, a couple of pounds of Velveeta cheese, a can of cream of mushroom soup, which is the cure-all for everything you've made a mistake with.
Oh, yes.
Cream of mushroom soup. Get about a half a pound of bacon, cooked and crumbled, 8 ounces of tomatoes, 8 ounces of mushrooms, can be fresh or canned. If you can find it, a teaspoon of pork sausage seasoning. Not every place has it, but you can go with it if you can find it. And about 3/4 cup of taco sauce. So what you do, you just brown and crumble the moose meat, add in the pork sausage seasoning, melt the cheese, stir in the remaining ingredients in a pot, and just pile it on the platter on the chips. It tastes really, really good, especially for bowl season and football season.
Oh, it sounds great. It's funny you mentioned moose. I remember the first time I had it, I was fishing at a Canadian flyout lodge up in British Columbia, way up north. And on the last night, we were the only guests left. Usually they had pretty fancy meals, but the owner came and said, "Hey, would you mind if we just did Mexican night tonight?" And thinking, okay, this should be interesting. So we ended up having moose burritos, and it was just fabulous. But what I took away from that was that was the leanest ground meat I think I'd ever had. It was very tasty, but it was so lean. I couldn't get over that.
And that's what I like about moose. I mean, the first time I had it, it wasn't that good, but it had been in the freezer forever. If you have fresh moose meat and you've got even a semi-skilled cook, you can do amazing things with it. Same with buffalo. I think people are so used to beef. There are other cuts of red meat out there that are leaner that can really absorb wonderful flavors, like moose, like antelope even.
A lot of people I've talked to, when it comes to antelope, they're kind of like, the meat's just kind of so-so. Do you have any suggestions on good cuts and good preparation for that animal?
I always bring out the hammer and do the little tenderizing, because a lot of times that's what it is. You're getting such a tough cut just because, if they're running around that much, you're going to have less fat and just more of the muscle. So you want to be able to tenderize it a little bit. And all you got to do is get out a tenderizer hammer, or if you're out in the woods, a really nice rock sometimes, and just beat on the meat a little bit.
Well, I unfortunately have this visual of you of just hammering a poor antelope, flank steak on a stump out there in the woods right now. So I have to get past that as well. You are not good for me on the radio, Tim. I'll tell you why.
Probably not. The other thing too is if you're going to do an antelope steak, try and keep it thin. I mean, people like, I want that big, 1.5 inch steak. Keep it about a 1/2 inch thick. It's gonna cook a little better. You got to keep it moist so it doesn't dry out, but that will help it too, because if it's so thick, it's going to get chewy on you. If you keep it thin, about a 1/2 inch, it's going to come out a lot better.
All right. Well, Tim, we are flying along this interview, but I want to talk about some new books that you've written since we last talked. Go ahead and tell our listeners about them.
Well, it's been a really busy summer, and I've released, I think, 8 new books this summer.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. The 2 bestsellers have been the Man Candy Cookbook, Bacon, Bacon, Bacon.
Yeah.
50 recipes, all with bacon. I did one by request I've never done before. People kept saying, "We don't do a vegetarian book." I'm like, well, first of all, look at me and look what I do. But okay, I'll do something for you. And I came out with the Bad Hunter Cookbook, Vegetarian Victuals and Meatless Meals.
Okay.
Which is doing quite well. And then something I delved into this summer, which I'd never done before, I put together a do-it-yourself jerky cookbook.
Oh.
And I did it with dehydrators. I tried it with ovens. I did something called a South African biltong, where you actually use a light bulb and a fan, and the stuff came out pretty good. I mean, I'm not an expert at it, but I got some great recipes from some friends, and I tinkered with it, and things like citrus ginger venison jerky. Wow, it turned out fantastic. I even tried a Cajun gator jerky, which is kind of like a tougher chicken. But, yeah, this was a real fun book to write, and it's really starting to take off.
Oh, Tim, I am so happy for you, especially because you're really filling a need here, especially for us guys who are not the best cooks in the world. We're going to give you a website out there. It's flanneljohn.com. That's right, flannel, just like what you wear, john.com. Tim's got a Facebook page, too, and what is that? If you just Google in Flannel John's Cookbooks, is that going to get you there on Facebook?
Yeah, Flannel John Cookbooks for Guys. I usually update it a couple times a week. I let people know where I'm going to be or if new releases are coming out. In fact, my first book right now is getting remixed and remastered. We're adding some extra fish recipes to it and a fresher cover, and we figured for the holidays it would be kind of a nice thing to do.
Last but not least, where can people buy your books?
Right now they're available at Amazon.com. You can get them through the Flannel John website, and as always, 25% of my profits also goes to the Wounded Warrior Project, which is just something that's really touched my heart.
Thank you, sir, for that. Again, it's the Flannel John's Cookbook series, available at flanneljohn.com or on amazon.com. Would make a great Christmas gift for somebody in your life and would be great for you as well. Tim, thanks for joining us. Love hearing from you on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again from Max Lure Company, Lance Mers. Lance, it's December. That means it's time to start thinking about ice fishing. And I understand that Max Lure Company has the perfect lure for ice fishing. Tell our listeners about it.
We do, John. And it's called the Max Lure Glow Hook. And they're super awesome hooks. And I'm not saying that just because I work with the place, but, you know, a lot of times you'll go into a store and you'll see hooks that are dipped in something. You know, they've got some sort of material. Ours aren't that way. They're handcrafted. They're hard plastic. They don't float. But you can use this for any type of application other than ice fishing.
Well, let's talk about ice fishing. So I think that's where a lot of people are going to be using it in the next couple of months. Basically, it's a hook. It's got some, a colored application on it, so it almost looks like a jig, but it's still really light. So are you fishing this with some weights above it and jigging it down below, putting some bait on it, or how exactly do you fish this under the ice?
My favorite way to fish these in the ice is using a Max Lure sonic bait fish, and I'll tape a glow hook and I'll take it probably about 1.5 to 2 inches past the tail. Okay. So that way, if I'm doing a straight vertical jig, I've got a glow white maggot glow hook on there, and it attracts the fish like crazy.
Well, you also have different sizes of these glow hooks, so they can be fished alone or they can be fished, like you said, underneath a lure. But vertical presentation obviously is going to be very key for success when you're using the glow hook, right?
Yeah, it comes in 6 different colors. It ranges from size 2 to 12 hook. It comes in bronze, red, sparkle tail fly, and a treble series.
Well, there you go, folks. It's the glow hook from Max Lure Company. If you're looking to get some perch or trout or anything else under the ice, you're going to want to look at this. You can find out more about it at your favorite sporting goods store or at maxlure.com.
That's the sound you hear when a fish hits the new sonic bait fish from Max Lure Company. This metal lure can be cast, trolled, or jigged and will catch just about anything that swims in the sea, the river, or the lake. The sonic bait fish has a unique vibration and flutter that can be rigged in 7 different ways. With all sorts of eye-catching colors and weights available, you'll be reaching for the sonic bait fish as your go-to lure. It's the sonic bait fish. Only from Max Lure Company.
Snow blankets the ground and the air is crisp and clear. Welcome to the winter wonderland of Wallowa County. The sun sparkles on the eagle caps and life slows down a little. A quiet journey into the backcountry means donning your snowshoes or cross-country skis. For more adventure, bring your snowmobile and experience 150-plus miles of groomed trails and breathtaking wilderness views. When the sun sets, experience some of Northeast Oregon's finest cuisine and stay at one of our quality overnight accommodations. Wake up to the world in Wallowa County. Your morning begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Psst, yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? We've got local sponsor opportunities at all 50 of the stations that carry Northwestern Outdoors every week, and we've got some network opportunities too. If the outdoors is your business, we can help you with your advertising needs. Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com for more information. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
Guy, you keep on talking just like every year, and you're heading up north to test your hunting luck. Your truck's all loaded with Blaze Orange and beer, so get up, dear, and I hope you get your bug.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. I know a lot of you out there have put together a deer camp, elk camp, or fishing camp, but I bet you've never put one together like Jason Brooks has. Jason hails from the Tacoma area. He's a regular contributor to Northwest Sportsman magazine, and he just got back from an epic hunting and fishing adventure in Idaho. Jason, welcome to the show, and thanks for the photos. That looked like the trip of a lifetime.
Well, thank you, John.
Jason, why don't you go ahead? Tell our listeners a little bit about this hunting trip. How long was it? Where did it take place? Give us the lowdown.
Well, the best part about this trip is it's in central Idaho in the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness area, a very unique place for the lower 48 because you actually have to fly in with bush planes. So this adventure starts off by going to a local airport there in central Idaho, getting in a small airplane, and flying off into the bush.
Wow.
And it was quite the adventure.
You know, that's really cool to me because when I think flyouts, I'm always thinking Alaska and Canada. Didn't even know there was places you still had to do that here in the lower 48.
Yeah, in fact, the Frank Church is actually one of the largest wilderness areas in the lower 48. So it's a huge, massive land. And really what's unique about this is because you can fly in because the state actually owns several different runways. So there's lots of places to go and lots of places to roam around and hike around, and it's just a great adventure.
How long were you out there? How many of you went?
Well, there was 3 people in my group, and that's kind of important to realize and remember that when you fly in these planes, if you have a lot of guys going or a lot of people going, you might have to take 2 or 3 plane trips versus 3 or under. You can usually get it done in one plane. And we were there for about a week. We had to fly in a couple days early because of weather, and then we actually cut our trip short by 2 days because of another storm that was moving in. So we were there about 6 days was all.
All right, so another question. How'd you guys do?
Well, we did fairly well. 2 people in our group got their deer on the very first day we went out hunting.
Nice.
And so because it's a wilderness area, once you land, everything's on foot. And we were backpacking and packing our animals back. And then the next day I was lucky enough to find a nice bull, and I got my elk. So we spent another 2 days packing meat. And then the last day I went out and I was able to fill my deer tag. So we actually had almost 100% success. The only tag that we didn't fill was I didn't get my wolf, which to me would be the true trophy for this adventure.
Oh, those are tough animals to hunt. I've interviewed Robert Millage from Idaho before who likes to go after those, and he'll tell you that it is not an easy thing to bag a wolf. So let's talk about something else. I know as much fun as you had hunting, you guys did some trout fishing too, didn't you?
Well, like I said, we had to fly in a couple of days early. The hunting season started November 1st, and that allowed us to do a couple of days of fly fishing. And I had heard that fly fishing was pretty good in this area of Idaho, but I didn't know how good it was until we actually broke out the fly rods and started casting some bugs out there. And we were lucky enough to hit some good weather and actually have a dry fly hatch on Halloween Day.
Oh, wow. Were you after cutthroat trout?
It was all West Slope cutthroats. There is some Dolly Varden or bull trout in that river, but we didn't pick any of those up. But we did get several really nice West Slope cutthroats. They're just a beautiful fish.
Now, the nice thing about flying in, now I understand that, you're hiking around for the hunting, but I assume that you're setting up your camp pretty close to the airstrip, and you can probably bring like a wall tent and some good food and kind of enjoy yourself for that week.
It is a true vacation. If you like to camp and even car camp by driving around and finding a camping spot, realize that, one of these airplanes can fly in about the same stuff you can put in the back of a car. And so, you can take in a heater and a wall tent and really enjoy yourself. And once you're in there, the adventure begins. So it's up to you for as long as you want to stay in there and hunt and fish and hike and, take pictures and just have a great time.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to outdoors writer Jason Brooks about a do-it-yourself bush adventure here in the lower 48. Actually, this one took place in the Frank Church Wilderness in central Idaho. What was the most satisfying thing about this adventure?
Well, the most satisfying thing, of course, you would think that, I got my deer and I got my elk, and
Sure.
those are always great on a hunting trip. But being able to go into an area that has such history and beautiful country that the Frank Church is, from the gold mining days and the homesteader days, and the trail that actually goes right along the river where we were is a Centennial Trail for Idaho, and just seeing that country, that is worth it right there alone.
And how much company did you have out there? Was there any other hunters out there or hikers or anybody like that?
Well, one thing is this is actually a pretty popular type hunt. Don't expect to go out there and not see anybody. We had several other tents and camps along the runway where we were, and the runways are about 6 miles apart on average. Some are further, some are shorter. So if you hike 3 or 4 miles out from your runway, you'll actually run into other hunters from other runways. So don't think this is a true all alone, there's nobody around type wilderness hunt. There are people, but there's so much game, and the country is so steep and so rugged, you can find places where you can have some solitude as well as having the camaraderie back at camp.
And it sounds like it's a whole different experience than going to the local state wildlife area, pitching a tent not far from a road, and you're hearing cars and you're hearing people, and it's just, almost like a circus that's going on, especially on opening weekend.
Yeah, that's one thing you'll find is that the people in these types of hunts, because most of them have done it before, is they're there for the total experience. If you're there just to fill a tag, well, first you'll be done fairly quickly because there's a lot of game. But if you are going out there for the adventure, then you don't mind having the people out there. We shared a lot of information. I had an elk tag. Some guys in camp knew I had an elk tag, and they were telling me where they were seeing elk because they didn't have an elk tag.
So, Jason, I know a lot of people are listening to this and thinking, man, this sounds really cool. It's not something you necessarily have to do in a bush plane like you did. You can go ahead and have a camp on horseback. You can go ahead and hike in. But let's talk about, planning an adventure like this. What advice do you have for folks that want to do a do-it-yourself adventure that goes beyond the typical deer or elk camp?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is you guys, or the people that are trying to plan this, they really need to look at this as a true vacation. And what I mean by that is this isn't the type of thing where you can load stuff in the truck, drive to your spot, pitch a tent, and start hunting. It's like planning any other vacation. It starts with airlines. You have to find the right carrier. Then you have to find hotels, both going over and coming back. You also have to plan for weather. There's lots of things you have to look at. But most of all, this is almost, I wouldn't say a once-in-a-lifetime hunt because you could really do this more often, but you got to look at this as a true adventure and just take it all in. So don't get in the trap of trying to get there and get your animal. Instead, enjoy the trip from the second you leave to go on the adventure to the second you get home. But the biggest thing is realize you're flying in small bush planes, so you got to pack light.
One other thing, too, when it came to getting a tag, was that an easy thing or a hard thing to do as a non-resident for the state of Idaho?
It was a very easy thing to do. Idaho has got a great website. They've got a hunt planner tab on their website that plans everything out for you. The elk tag I had was an over-the-counter general season elk tag. Our deer tags were actually a controlled hunt for the Unit 27, the Middle Fork Zone, and it's unlimited, so you have to apply in the spring around May, but you will get drawn and you will get to do that hunt every year if you want to go every year. So Idaho makes it very easy for you to obtain your licenses and get all the proper regulations and know the rules in the backcountry.
Gotta love the gem state. Jason, we are running out of time, but before we go, I've got to ask, I know you, I'm sure you're writing some articles about this. Where can we see not just the articles, but some of the great pictures that I got to see as well?
Well, hopefully going to be doing some blogs on it, various sites, but I've got an article tentatively planned with Northwest Sportsman Magazine for later on this coming winter. About the time you start thinking about these types of hunts, you will be able to pick that issue up and start thumbing through it and be reminded of our conversation we had here today. And then also with Successful Hunter magazines and national publications, sometime in the future it's going to be printed as a full feature there with a lot of those great color photos I took.
There you go, folks. That's Jason Brooks, the guy that planned and executed a fantastic do-it-yourself adventure and has got some advice coming out in some publications soon, so you can do the same. Jason, congratulations on a great hunt, and thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Anytime. Thank you, John.
I hope I get a buck. I hope I get a buck.
I'd like to tell you I just brought down that buck, but I didn't. I missed. And you know why I missed? Because of the scope I've got on my rifle. You see, my friends told me to get a loopholed rifle scope. They make a huge variety of quality scopes for every need, and they make them right here in the Northwest. Unfortunately, I didn't listen. I used the cheap scope that came with this rifle when I bought it. And when it came time to pull the trigger, well, let's just say things were a little blurry. Now, I've got nothing to look forward to except a long, empty-handed walk back home. Next time I come out into the field, there's going to be a loopholed scope on my rifle.
Loophole Rifle Scopes. Check out the whole line at loophole.com and look for them at a sporting goods store near you.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Potholes Reservoir in eastern Washington. That cold front brought in not only the ducks, but the geese. They are in thick right now throughout the Columbia Basin, and if you want to get at them, you can do so by booking a field hunt with Meesburg Guided Adventures out of Mardon Resort. You might find yourself hunting out of a layout blind, or maybe a pit blind, but either way, I can guarantee you, having hunted with them before, you're going to have a great time and a great hunt. Find out more about booking a trip for goose hunting at mardonresort.com. And don't forget to bring your fishing rod, because the walleye fishing continues to go strong and winter trout fishing is picking up too. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. From the Outdoors Press Room, we learn a new roadkill law has been a big hit with Montana motorists. Okay. Yeah, I did get some pleasure from putting together that headline, but it's true. A new law that permits Montana residents to harvest roadkill has been very successful, with more than 800 game animals removed from the highways for meals in its first year. John Fraley with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks does have a cautionary note, though, regarding this new law. He says, folks need to remember you can't kill an animal, meaning you can't finish an animal off that you've hit with your vehicle or someone else has hit. You have to call an officer, and that officer will come out and take care of that. Then you can harvest the game animal under the roadkill law. Roadkill in Montana, for some people, it's what's for dinner. Turning to field reports, Black Friday is not just about shopping, it's about trout fishing too, especially if you live in Washington State, where several lakes have been stocked this week with rainbow trout, to include Roland Lake in Kittitas County, Battleground Lake in Kleinline Pond in Clark County, Crest Lake in Cowlitz County, Fort Borst Park Pond, and South Lewis County Park Pond, both of those in Lewis County. Many of the trout stocked in these lakes are sizable, averaging 15 to 16 inches. In the words of Chris Donnelly, the inland fish manager with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, these fisheries offer a great excuse to skip the malls and enjoy a fun day out on the water with family and friends. We couldn't agree more, Chris. We couldn't agree more. From Idaho Fish and Game, for the second time in as many months, an angler has set a new salmon record in the state of Idaho. The latest record, coho, was a 33-inch, 11.8-pound salmon caught by Steve Mysick of Idaho Falls. Because coho fishing is a brand new sport in Idaho, it's likely new records for coho will be recorded for several years to come. This was actually the first year Idaho anglers were allowed to fish for coho salmon, thanks in large part to the work being done by the Nez Perce tribe to bring coho back to the Idaho rivers where they once spawned naturally. And we've got a West Central Region 2 hunting report for Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, where cold temperatures and snow have kept both hunter numbers and harvest numbers down compared to last year. The tally for the third week of hunting shows over 4,000 hunters have stopped by the Hunter Check Station in Bonner, where they tallied 37 elk, 43 mule deer, and 195 white-tailed deer. Heading south to Darby, over 3,700 hunters have checked in 118 elk, 24 muleys, and 74 whitetails. In Anaconda, numbers spiked upward in terms of hunters, but the harvest of 31 elk is much lower than average, and only 22 mule deer and 10 white-tailed deer were checked in. And finally, from the Birding Wire, we learn officials in Oregon are asking folks to not feed beggars. Begging pelicans, that is. You see, pelicans are supposed to be scooping up fish out of the ocean and eating them, but some of them have found that asking for handouts from humans is a lot less work. Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife biologists have been seeing this activity around Siletz along the central Oregon coast and caution that the food people are giving them can not only make the birds sick, but also cause these birds to miss their migration pattern south to Baja, California. In other words, if you see a forlorn pelican with a cardboard sign saying they're a homeless vet or something and asking for food and money, don't fall for it. They need to work for their food, not beg for it, and there is plenty of fish in the sea for them to eat. All right, let's turn our attention from begging pelicans to turkey, which sounds delicious. Earlier in the show, we talked to Tim Murphy about several fowl and game recipes you might want to try this fall, but let's talk about something else. How was that Thanksgiving turkey you had this year? Was it moist and delicious, or perhaps dry, lacking in taste, and leaving you, well, feeling stuck in a holiday rut? Well, if that was your situation, we've got an idea for you for Christmas. How about a smoked turkey? I'll tell you what, they are delicious. They were all the rage 25 to 50 years ago. In fact, I remember our family getting a smoked turkey for Christmas every year from one of my father's friends, and I'll tell you what, we loved it. So, you're probably asking, how do I smoke a turkey? Well, we've got just the guy here to tell you how. It's Ryan Neely with Camp Chef. Ryan, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Welcome to the show.
It was a good Thanksgiving, and I'll tell you that smoked turkey makes all the difference.
It's just not something you really see in a grocery store, a smoked turkey. It's something you have to kind of get from a specialty retailer or maybe do it yourself, and that's why I've got you on board today, is for those that want to smoke their own turkey. What kind of equipment does Camp Chef have to help them out with that?
We got a lot of different equipment when it comes down to Turkey Day. We have two different models of smokers that are great. One that we've talked about, actually both we've talked about before on the show, the Smoke Vault, and a personal and I think an overall favorite is the pellet grill and smoker. However, there is also an accessory that you're going to want whether you're smoking, baking, whatever, and that's the turkey cannon. It's very similar to what you'd use for beer can chicken or something. Same idea.
So tell me about the turkey cannon. Is that basically something to inject moisture into the turkey?
Yeah, so you're not injecting. So picture those who are familiar with cooking like beer can chicken, where you get the beer can, you set the chicken on top of it, you put it in your grill, smoker, oven, whatever. The turkey can is very, very similar. What you'll do is, prepare the turkey however you want, whether, season it or anything, however you personally like it. And then there's the cannon part where you're going to dump a liquid, whether it be water, chicken broth, beer or wine or anything in there, and then slide the turkey on. What that will do is actually it will lower your cooking time, so cook quicker, and then it will infuse that turkey with a delicious flavor, whatever you have in there, and it keeps it really, really moist. You'll love it. It is good.
And in all fairness, folks, I have to tell you, I tried the turkey cannon last year. It works like a champ. But how do we go ahead and actually smoke the turkey? And I guess, whether it's with the pellet grill or with the Smoke Vault propane smoker, how does one do this?
It's a simple process. What you'd want to do is season the turkey how you like it. There's so many different things online, and it's really a personal preference how you want to do it. Whether you brine your turkey or just do a rub on it, either way works. But what I would do if you're smoking, use apple or cherry, some kind of fruit wood.
Sure.
Would be excellent, really good with poultry. And then just cook it probably 200 to 300 degrees.
Okay.
On a smoke setting, and just throw it in there for a few hours. As soon as that turkey reaches 165 degrees, pull it.
So are we talking about a 3-hour process, a 5-hour process? I mean, I know it's going to be dependent on the size of the turkey, but give or take, how long are we talking here?
Yeah, it is going to depend on the size of the turkey. It's also going to depend on how much wind you're getting and how cold it is at your place on Thanksgiving or on Christmas Day or whenever you're cooking. But with that, it'll probably be give or take 3 hours.
Pretty easy to do. So again, folks, that's the pellet grill from Camp Chef or the propane smoker from Camp Chef. Don't forget the turkey cannon. Is there anything I'm missing, Ryan?
No, when that thing hits 165, pull it, wrap it in foil for about 10 minutes, and it'll be delicious.
Oh, I am tasting it already. Can't wait to try it myself. Folks, you can go ahead and find out more about the pellet grill and also about the propane smoker and the turkey cannon at Camp Chef's website, campchef.com. Easy to remember, campchef.com. And I know that you find these all over the place in some of the big sporting goods stores too. What are some of the main sporting goods stores you're going to find these products in?
I go to Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse. Check out your local sporting goods store or your local farm and ranch store, and they will definitely be carrying Camp Chef products.
There you go, folks. Smoked turkey for Christmas. Go ahead and get out there, get some products from Camp Chef. Make it happen. You're going to enjoy it, and you're going to want to do it for years to come. Ryan, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Good hanging with you, John.
It's the holiday season, and what better way to celebrate than with a year-long subscription to The Real News, dedicated to the accurate coverage of fishing issues throughout the Northwest for over 25 years. The Real News is the perfect gift for the reading angler. Just log on to therealnews.com and go to the subscription page. As a special bonus, we'll throw in a vinyl Real News sticker if you mention Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Order now and make someone happy far beyond the holidays.
Psst, yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? We've got local sponsor opportunities at all 50 of the stations that carry Northwestern Outdoors every week, and we've got some network opportunities too. If the outdoors is your business, we can help you with your advertising needs. Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Let's run through some upcoming events before we go. Rock Forest State Park east of Burlington, Washington along Highway 20 is the place to be on December 5th, 6th, or 7th for guided deep forest hikes. These walks take place between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from December 5th through February 15th at Rockport State Park. The hikes vary in distance, and the time from 30 minutes to 1 hour or more can be customized depending on the interest and activity level of participants. There's also an ADA accessible trail there too. No need to register. Simply show up at the park office and get ready to discover the old-growth forest found in this 670-acre park. There are several Ducks Unlimited banquets coming up here in the Northwest, to include a DU banquet at the Elks Lodge in Polson, Montana on Saturday the 13th. I got to spend some time in Polson at the south end of Flathead Lake, and I'll tell you what, any excuse to go there is a good one. Another Ducks Unlimited banquet is taking place in St. Mary's, Idaho on December 4th. St. Mary's is another town I really like, and it's home to our affiliate, KOFE 1240. This Sportsman's Night Out will also take place at the local Elks Lodge and runs from 6 to 9 p.m. And finally, the Elks Lodge in Roseburg, Oregon will be the setting of a DU banquet as well on Saturday the 6th from 5 to 9 p.m. If you haven't been to a Ducks Unlimited banquet before, you're missing out. They all involve good food, auctions, raffles, games, and fellowship with fellow hunters and conservationists. Best of all, you're raising money to help out waterfowl and other species in the state you live in. You can find out more about these banquets and others taking place near you at ducks.org. That's ducks.org for Ducks Unlimited and a banquet near you. While you're on the web, check out our website too. It's northwesternoutdoors.com. You're going to find two things there. Actually, three things. Number one, you're going to find links to find out more about the guests we interview on the show. Number two, you're going to find a webpage that'll show all the stations we're on. So if you're traveling around the Northwest, you can tune into us on 55 different stations. And number three, in case you missed last week's show, you can listen to it off our website on the front page. Simply go to the bottom of the page, click on the radio, and you'll get to hear last week's broadcast. Speaking of listening to our show on the internet, another place to do so is at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. This is a great website because it offers 7 days a week of outdoors radio. Our show is one of 30 outdoor shows that airs there. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's a great resource, especially if you love outdoors radio like I do. That's all for this week. Be sure to tune in next week because it's our annual Christmas gift giveaway show. This is the most popular show of the year. It's our chance to give back and say thanks to you and wish you a Merry Christmas by giving away all sorts of great gifts. And I'll tell you what, one of them I'm really excited about this year is a rifle scope from Leupold. How's that for a Merry Christmas? That's just one of the many gifts we're going to be giving away. Follow us on our Facebook page, like us there as well, and you will go ahead and be in the know of what's coming up next weekend for the gift giveaway show that you'll be able to enter on our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio or through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.